Hello viewers, welcome back to Drawing Stuff with Paul Yeatman. Today's drawing of Spider-Man's new grey and blue techie costume began with a mood board and stitching together of a couple of selfies, tracing the image in Photoshop, printing it out and then tracing that using a light box, and then finally adding detail in the way of line art and colour. Not the sort of workflow I recommend, but good enough for just hacking about and trying stuff. I had thought I recorded the Photoshop stage, but I didn't because the video is black. Oh well. And I have chapters in case you want to skip to something specific. So first off, I used my new flat panel light sheet that replaces my huge heavy and old fluorescent light box, which I may keep for maybe A3 tracing. My Photoshop tracing was fairly rough, and that shows with the final trace, which I'm going through and adding details to. And I'll also fix up some odd shapes as I go along, or at least what I perceive to be odd. The plan for January 2021 is to do an anatomy challenge. I suppose that should be a hash anatomy challenge or hashtag. So let's use this as January 1st, even though I drew this yesterday, and come back to drawing Spider-Man in his new costume on January 31 and see if there is an improvement. There should be, or at least I'd like to see some sort of improvement. At least that's the hope / plan. Basically, what I'm doing here is adding the suit design to the base and referencing the comic cover art quite a bit while trying to work out what goes where based on the pose I have drawn. I am larger than Peter Parker, so I have tried to trim some weight off my drawing. I still think it turned out a bit beefy. I do that by trying to thin out the waist a little bit, and also thin the legs and the arms, I think, a little bit. The tricky bits were the lighted strips along Spider-Man. These are angular, quite fine, and follow his body's contours. My drawing was a little bigger than A5, so perhaps I should have done this in A4 or used a 0.1 fine liner. Most of the detail was using a set of coloured 0.5 pens, and I did that as the comic art did not use black for all of the detail. Now, what I most like about this is the webbing. Though simple with 2 ruler drawn lines and then 2 squiggles added at regular intervals, I think it works well. While inking this piece, I tried a bunch of new stuff: coloured fine liners, brush pens and style emulation. Though I am using Monty Mart bleed proof paper, I find the coloured fine liners bleed a little. Odd, though perhaps that's brand specific as it's not the actual brand name of the paper, and my black pens seem to stay put. So I'm using ArtyAlien coloured 0.5s for the orange and a bit of blue later. I'm using my uni pins, I think. Or is it an ArtyAlien? Yeah, it's an ArtyAlien. There we go. But that's a finer pen, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it's just the colours that bleed. Oh well. As I add suit detail, especially with the pads, I draw outside the lines to bulk up these sections and make them look like they are sitting on top of the underlying suit. And while inking, I failed to take the webbing into account in most places, so I had to erase some line art with gel pen. Not optimum, but that was what was required to attempt to fix the piece. I struggled a bit with the suit details on the arms, and that is where most of the fudging took place. It looks okay, but I'm quite sure anyone of any skill in drawing Spider-Man or anyone familiar with his character will see a lot that is wrong. I try to get fancy here with the brush pens. First I use a black to do the outline, and then I use a red. I try to give the line work some varied thickness. I was marginally successful there. Probably too thick in most of the spots. To mark where the blue suit goes, I use my blue fine liner. Now it is time to colour. I start with the light grey for the white areas, and I think I should have not coloured here at all and gone a shade lighter for the darker grey areas. You can see here the grey is fairly dark and the dark grey is really dark. So maybe I could have just used that for the shadows, gone the end 4 for this section and the end 2 for the boots, or just left the boots as white. Once the grey is done, I will use a golden yellow for the text strips. After that, some more detail will be added with fine liner, mostly hashes to indicate shadow. So back into colouring, this time with the blues. Here the dark is too dark, I think, and the light is too light. Using a lighter hue for the dark blue would have probably worked better. That's one thing about drawing, we learn stuff as we go along. That's all good. Here I'm thinking the picture's so-so, not quite a yay, not quite a nay. So time to try again. See me again on the 31st of Jan. I then decide to quickly add some background in the form of yellow. That sort of matches the colour scheme for the comic pages, although it had like buildings and stuff behind it. Okie dokie, here's the finished piece as drawn with a little finagling in Photoshop. I think a lot needs refinement, and yeah, check back on the January 31st or February 1st with what I hope is an improved take 2 on this after my hashtag anatomy art challenge. Are you a fan of the new suit? Personally, I would like to see the web design on it, so maybe I'll do that as well on the 31st. Anywho, if you found this stuff interesting, informative, entertaining, etc., subscribe, like, and share. Until next time, you have been watching Drawing Stuff with me, Paul Yateman. Ciao, and Happy New Year!